I want to take just a few moments and talk to you about your rhetorical analysis essay, which is your first essay this semester. For this assignment, you will go through a multi-stage composing and revising process to produce your essay, which will involve um, you outlining your essay, rough drafting, peer reviewing, and then coming up with a final draft. So there'll be multiple parts to this, so that hopefully you feel prepared and as if you've received feedback along the way that will help you submit the best product possible. So here's the assignment. It says this: advertisements are designed to persuade and convince a select audience to purchase a product. You will select a commercial that aired during the 2023 Super Bowl and write a 1,000-word essay that takes a position on how well the ad convinces the intended audience to buy the product, use the service, etc., through the use of the rhetorical appeals. To be clear, you will address how the ad uses logos, ethos, and pathos to persuade its audience and take a position on how effective it is. You'll also provide an in-text citation when you refer to your commercial. So, to be clear here, you are going to choose an ad that aired during the 2023 Super Bowl. If you're watching this video after 2023, you might, in your assignment instructions here, 2024 or 2025, you may see that. I'm saying 2023 here because that's the year we're in, but if this is a later semester, that year may change. Follow the written instructions for the assignment. Okay, so you're going to write 1,000 words, and it says you need to take a position on how well the ad convinces the intended audience to buy the product, use the service, and so on and so forth through the rhetorical appeals, which are ethos, pathos, and logos. So you have 5 big things to do here. You have to be able to identify who the audience is. You have to be able to talk about how the ad uses ethos, how the ad uses pathos, and how the ad uses logos. And you have to basically set out to prove through the use of evidence from the commercial how well the ad does at persuading who their target audience is. And let me go ahead and give you a tip. More often than not, the audience isn't simply people who watch the Super Bowl. Yes, Super Bowl watchers are certainly included in the commercial idea as a general overall theme, but more often than not, commercials have a more specific audience. So if you think back to that Kevin Hart Hyundai commercial, it was a commercial that appeared at a Super Bowl, but it wasn't really just for Super Bowl watchers. It was for parents who were going to be buying a car that a teenager might be driving. So you really need to think about the whole commercial and who it's really appealing to, and you've got to be able to indicate that in your paper. On the topic page, I go through talking about ways that you can begin your project, considering things like visual literacy and how images rhetorically appeal to us and how to write to analyze. And I'll let you read that on your own time. But if you have questions about any of that, please let me know. I might also talk about the approach of where you might want to start off really considering on the images and the text and paying real close attention, like an art critic might to a piece of art, or a football coach might to game film. You really want to pick apart the pieces of your ad. Then I provide you some ideas to consider as you analyze the ad. Whom the ad targets is the audience. And in some cases, this could be where an ad appears. In this case, again, it's not simply just Super Bowl audiences. Are there other people that the ad is appealing to? For example, last year, I think it was Squarespace had an ad that featured Zendaya as a seashell salesperson, and she's using Squarespace to get her business off the ground. Well, while yes, the ad appeared during the Super Bowl, it was really targeting small business owners or people who might want to be small business owners. You also need to consider how the ad employs ethos, pathos, and logos. If the ad is effective in targeting the audience and convincing them, how visual elements of the ads are used to appeal to values the audience considers important, and what are those values to which the ad appeals. So if we think back to that Kevin Hart ad, the assumption here is that the intended audience of parents looking to buy a car that a teenager might drive, your audience likely values safety and making sure their children are protected. You would want to consider whether or not it's appropriate or worthwhile to appeal to those values. You might want to consider what the advertiser is showing you or possibly not showing you. So what information is there, what's been left out? You might want to consider ways in which reality has been altered in order to make the image more appealing. You might want to consider how the text of the ad or the words that are being said in the ad relates to the message being communicated. You might want to consider the responses the ad elicits by way of emotions. Is it fear, guilt, pity, excitement? And then what assumptions the creator seems to have about the viewers of the ad? What does the creator think of its audience? The next thing you want to consider is organization. And there's really the most effective students who write this essay kind of goes one of two ways in writing their essay. The first potential organizational pattern that I'm going to talk about and that I've provided kind of a little outline for you is you would have an introductory paragraph and then you would have your 4 body paragraphs because you're required 6 paragraphs total for this essay. The first body paragraph would identify and prove how the ad who the ad is appealing to. So who the intended audience is and how the ad makes it clear that's who the intended audience is. So if we think back to that Kevin Hart ad, we can see that there's this concerned father that's constantly following his daughter around. He's looking at where, he's using that car finder feature to understand what's happening with his daughter on this date with this boy. Then you want to talk about how the ad appeals to ethos, pathos, or logos. You do not have to write about these in this order, but you must address how the ad uses ethos, pathos, and logos. If I can give you any advice that would be super helpful for you as you work on this project, here's that advice. Choose an ad that uses all 3, ethos, pathos, and logos, so that you can point out specific times in the ad where each of those rhetorical appeals have been used. It will make your life easier because if you don't talk about all 3 of these, you will not do as well on your essay as if you did talk about all 3 ethos, pathos, and logos. You need to be able to identify and explain how the ad is doing it. It's always better to choose an ad that is effective than one that is ineffective because it's a harder essay to write. I want to be clear. If you want to choose an ineffective ad to analyze, you can do that. It's just going to make your job a lot harder to pull off as far as having an effective essay that's really demonstrating that you understand intended audience and how ethos works, pathos works, and logos works. If you're having trouble once you get your ad, once you choose one, reach out to me. I'll help you see if there's a place where I can help you find ethos, pathos, or logos if you're struggling to see something. That said, sometimes students choose, I thought this commercial was funny, so I'm going to use it, but it doesn't really have a whole lot of ethos or logos or, something's missing there. Don't choose the ad you're going to write about based on how much you liked it or didn't like it. Choose a good ad that will help you write this paper more easily. Your other option for organizational pattern would be to just reveal who the intended audience is in your introductory paragraph and kind of reference them all throughout. And then have a paragraph on ethos, pathos, one on logos, and then have a second body paragraph on one of these 3 and just pair that with it. So you might have 2 paragraphs on ethos, then talk about pathos and logos, or 2 paragraphs on logos and then talk about ethos or pathos, or you might talk about ethos, pathos, and then 2 paragraphs on logos, whatever makes sense there. I personally think organizational pattern 1 usually works a little bit better, but you could do it either way. I've also seen students, and one of the sample essays does this, where they talk about ethos, pathos, and logos, and then talk about the intended audience at the end and how the use of these 3 things helps appeal to that audience. That works well, but it is a little harder to pull off than if you just kind of get it out of the way in the first body paragraph. But if you break down your essays into one of these ways, you will have your 6 paragraphs. You'll have your introductory paragraph, your 4 body paragraphs, and your conclusion, no matter which of these options you choose to use. I've also provided some ideas for considering pre-writing where you might want to take the time. And this isn't necessarily something you would write out in your essay. It's just to help you really make sure you understand your ad. of describing your ad in great detail as if you were describing it for someone who's never seen it. This can be very helpful to you as you are considering, how well you understand the ad and what examples might be best to use when you're writing your paper. A couple of ideas. As you present your ideas, you want to take an objective position. While you are taking a position that shows that you think the ad is effective, you're not going to say, I think that, I believe, I feel that, or in my opinion, simply because it's unnecessary and it makes your writing wordy. We understand because you're writing the essay that you think these things. So there's no reason to reference yourself. Also, you're going to want to avoid the word you in your papers rather than saying, and so when you see the ad, you would say something like, and when the audience is watching the ad, or when women in their middle-aged women watch this ad, they or when parents who are looking to buy a car, you want to be more specific to who you are saying you is. As far as your thesis statement, you want your thesis statement to be analytical, not descriptive. In other words, it should not state what the ad is doing, but how the ad is doing what it's doing and taking a position on whether or not the ad is effective in doing it. So you might say something like, Hyundai's Car Finder ad featuring Kevin Hart effectively uses the rhetorical appeals to convince parents whose children are of driving age to try out their new product. And then I know you're identifying who the audience is. I know that you are going to talk about the rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, and logos. And I know that you are taking a clear position that the ad is effective. For this essay, you will not use outside sources. There is really no reason that you should be using outside sources for this ad. It should just be your analysis of the ad. That is all. A few requirements. You will need at least 1,000 words. Please don't go over 1,500 words. This will not include your works cited page. So 1,000 words before the works cited page, although your works cited page won't be long for this essay. You'll have 6 paragraphs, an intro, 4 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. You will use MLA format and a works cited page. The only thing that should appear on your works cited page is your advertisement. And then you must include a copy or link to the advertisement with your essay. Typically, if you've done your works cited entry correct on your works cited page, you will have a link there that would link me to the ad. You may be wondering, well, how do I get one of these ads? I'm not watching the Super Bowl. Usually the days leading up to the Super Bowl, like Friday, Saturday before Super Bowl, or certainly by the Monday after the Super Bowl has aired, you can find these commercials on YouTube. Doing a quick Google search, there's often any number of outlets that will put out a list of all the best Super Bowl ads, and they've got links to all of those commercials. So you should be able to find 2023 Super Bowl commercials. But it's important that your commercial be chosen from the Super Bowl listed in the instructions for the essay. In the case of this year, that would be 2023. All right. For some reason, my due dates have not been updated here, but they will be on your page when you see this. I'm not sure why that update didn't take, but I will make sure that's right for you. This week, you will work on MLA activities in your outline. And then rather than doing an introductory paragraph, draft, and peer review, you're actually going to do a full rough draft and peer review, then a final draft. We will not do the Flipgrid discussion for this class. And then you will have a minute paper, which I'll give you all the correct dates on your page. So don't worry about that now. I provided 3 sample essays for you. Each one kind of approaches the assignment a little bit differently by way of organizational pattern. One of them uses this pattern, another uses that pattern, and one of them kind of flips this pattern to talk about ethos, pathos, logos, and then audience. All 3 are effective. All 3 did pretty well. You might see that one of them does use an outside source. That was a paper from quite a while ago, and they were allowed to use outside sources. But what I have found is that when students start pulling in outside sources, they lose focus on what the purpose of the paper is. So I do not want you doing that. All right, I hope this video helped. And if you have questions, please let me know.